Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Fireside chat that we have today with very great attendees from Kristal and Stockal. And I'm really excited to welcome our guests here tonight that we have. First of all, let me introduce you Siddhashwa Srivastava. Siddhashwa is the co-founder and co-CEO of Stockal, and he takes care of the investor relations, global expansion, and strategic communication at Stockal. Siddhashwa has a background in crowdsourcing platforms, fintech, business consulting, and consumer marketing. I think you have also co-founded Jade Magnet, which was Asia's first B2B crowdsourcing platform focused on marketing and technology services. Welcome, Siddhashwa.
Thanks so much, Thomas. Very happy to be here. Looking forward to the chat.
Thank you very much for taking the time. Then we have Vinay. Vinay is the co-founder and co-CEO of Stockal. And Vinay, you're taking care of business strategy, large partnerships, and platform development at Stockal. Vinay is a seasoned entrepreneur and management executive with a demonstrated track record. He's founded and managed 4 different startups, really impressive achievement. And you led them through various rounds of investments and growth, and establishing their presence across 4 continents. Prior to Stockal, Vinay was the co-founder and CEO of Carbon Navigator, which was an end-to-end analytics and trading platform for managing energy and carbon footprints. Welcome, Vinay.
Thanks so much.
Last but not least, we have Ashish Chanda with us. He's the CEO and founder of Kristal.AI. Ashish oversees all the company's operations and spearheads the strategy and product development, as well as client acquisition. And he also oversees the management of the Kristal Founders Fund, which is a macro hedge fund strategy that he's managing for Kristal.AI's founders' money and, of course, our key clients. Ashish has over 15 years of experience in the financial industry, and prior to founding Kristal, he has managed investment portfolios at Chris Capital, which is a Singapore-based macro hedge fund, and has also a couple of years' experience across various global investment banks, including JP Morgan, and investment experience across multiple asset classes.
Thanks a lot, Thomas. I'm sure you'll vouch for this, that you put in a lot more hard work than me. So maybe you can talk about that because Thomas heads our trading and portfolio management. So I think you should mention more about your profile also.
Yeah, last but not least, I'm your host for tonight, and really pleased to be moderating this session here. As Ashish said, I'm managing the trading and asset management at Kristal. I also manage a number of strategies on our platform, one of our levered bond strategies, then equity strategy that we have on the platform with next generation growth sectors. And besides that, looking after products, looking after trade execution on the platform. So yeah, busy enough, thanks to Ashish. So we wanted to get together today to talk a little bit about the overseas investments for Indian investors. And I think we couldn't find any better guests than Siddhashwa and Vinay and Ashish to talk about it a little bit. And I've prior in preparation for our meeting today, I've been looking at your webpage as well. And like the first thing is that strikes one to visit is saying, take your portfolio global. So I wanted to hear a bit more about the journey of Stockal, and if you can share us a little bit more background, how you embarked on that mission, and yeah, tell us a little bit more about the history and background of your company.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, there is a bit of history. We started off as slightly different from what we are doing right now. In the beginning, we were a US-focused retail investors dashboard. We felt that the world needs a better version of Yahoo Finance, perhaps. a more personalized investing dashboard, a sort of a practical app which also gives you ideas and analyzes a lot of data for you so that you don't have to do a lot of research as a retail investor. And we felt that apps like Yahoo Finance were not doing it well enough. And I just say Yahoo Finance as a representative of pretty much all the investing app ecosystem that's been there from a tracking perspective. And we felt that if we could marry research with personalization and trading, then we would create a better product with a focus on the US market. Over a period of time, we built that, and we built a lot of proprietary stuff in terms of algos to also analyze data and all. But we realized that it was very difficult to monetize that product. As a free product, it did well, but monetization was planned via trading. We integrated with various US-based brokerage firms, had their APIs, etc., to sort of help people on the Stockal product trade via Fidelity or E-Trade or Schwab or Interactive Brokers and what have you. But then we had planned that we will make money by getting commission rebates. But the commission industry or the commission space in terms of revenues started going to zero very fast in the late 2000, around 2017, 18, once Robinhood started becoming bigger. And then in 2019, it basically just went to zero all across the board in the US. So our monetization model fell flat. And as we were building it, though, we were getting a lot of requirement from Indian wealth managers and Indian investors saying, can we use your product? And we could not onboard them at that time. Our users had to have an account with one of the US brokerage firms. So we always would say no. But over a period of time, as we started thinking of the problem that we were solving a little more deeply, and we started getting these requirements a lot more in 2018, we started digging into then the Indian opportunity, the Indian overseas opportunity at that time. And over a period of time, we got convinced that this was a very large space and a very huge white space that had been left alone as far as Indian fintech businesses were concerned. So we started building for Indian investors investing overseas in 2018. We already had the US side of things figured out because we had good relationships with many brokers in the US. We had to figure out Indian challenges, and we had to figure out why Indians investing in the US was already not a big thing in 2018. It's not that far, not that far away. So we discovered that remittance was a problem. We discovered that cost was an issue. We discovered that most US brokers did not want to onboard Indian investors at that time. We discovered that investors felt it was a very small market as far as an opportunity is concerned. So there was not enough money to be raised, etc. But we also felt that things were changing, and we also figured out the regulatory challenges which were there in that space, and started solving one by one for pretty much everything. And ultimately, I think mid 2019 is when we figured out how to do it, and started piloting it. We ran a pilot almost from March 2019 all the way till September, October 2019. And then finally went live around November, December 2019. Since then, it's been quite a journey. It's been about 15 months or so till date since we've been fully live, and very encouraging numbers.
So the new Stockal is not more than 1.5 years old, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, the newer version is not more than 15 months old, right? Just to add to what Sudhashwa was saying, right, to a large extent. What was like pretty crazy when we went about creating the overall infra for this cross-border investing is, it just didn't make any sense. Just because we are Indian, we are not able to participate in the global economy to a large extent, right? As a consumption market, you take an example of an Amazon, you take an example of a Google, Microsoft, Nike, Apple, you name all these brands, right? We are one of the largest in the consumption market, and we add a lot to their overall revenue numbers to a large extent. But just because we are geographically constrained in this country called India, we're not able to participate in the growth of these companies to a large extent. Right? So that was that was a huge problem which we wanted to solve to a large extent, right? And that's how the entire Stockal journey started, right? Why can't I participate in the growth of these companies? My colleagues who live in the US, they are able to make the upside, by participating in the in the growth of these companies. And just because I'm like in India, it doesn't make sense for me to not participate in it, right? So again, that's I think that's where the genesis of Stockal, the idea about Stockal came about. And also, if you look at the overall macro scenarios, so to say, right? When you look at the Indian subcontinent or the Southeast Asian market, predominant wealth is getting created in these markets, right? And when you look at the local domestic market, it's like pretty shallow. Now, you don't get true diversification. You don't have different asset classes, and you don't, truly have can build a diversified portfolio to a large extent, right? So, wealth is getting created on one end. Domestic market is pretty shallow, and then there's this global market which has, so much depth and so much options to it. And it made a lot of sense to, solve for it. It's just in front of us. Now we're not able to solve for it. So, Siddharth and I, we thought, this could be a pretty huge opportunity. Let's get hacking, like, any of the entrepreneurs. So that kind of, triggered off the entire Stockal journey to a large extent.
I completely agree. Yeah. So actually, in fact, I asked some of the interns that were interning with us at Kristal that, would you, if you were given $1,000 stipend, would you invest it in an Apple stock or buy an iPhone? And I'm telling you, even today, the answer is quite confused because everyone wants to buy the iPhone and not the Apple stock. But the fact is that when the first iPhone came out, I think it was probably 12 or 13 years ago, or maybe even 15 years ago, right? So the Apple stock, I remember, was at 1/100th of where it is. It was less than $1 in today's $125 space, right? So it's gone up 100 times. And the iPhone would have like crapped out within 2 years, right? So so it's very clear that whatever people are investing in or whatever people are using in India, almost 95% of your life today is governed by global brands. But you're not buying those global brands, and that's completely a mindset which is, I think, changed, I would say, since COVID or maybe since 2 years ago, which is where I think what Stockal is doing is awesome. And that's why we thought that this segment is one which can have a very rapid growth, and we focus on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, totally in sync with you in that regard. So as a Stockal, as a platform, what we went about doing it to a large extent, right? We wanted to solve for the local problems. Stuff like remittances, having lower account opening fee or no account opening fee to a large extent. Helping the clients out with their taxation requests. Giving the comfort to a large extent, and also creating this investing opportunities, because a share of Tesla is equivalent to 1 month's salary of a good software engineer in India at the moment, right? So you need to make it accessible for the for the large retail audience to a large extent, right? So once we had all these bits and pieces in place, from an overall creating the overall puzzle perspective, we thought it was a pretty good opportunity to tackle them. Touchwood, and it's been going on pretty well until now.
Yeah, and you also had a very interesting timing as well. I mean, you said it was in late 2019 when you started off, and then 2020 was the year that changed everything with COVID. Did you see from the behavior of investors on the platform? Do you see that Indian investors' approach to investments has changed during COVID?
I think COVID and the second order effects of COVID, perhaps, which were on various industries, all of that put together, the investor behavior has certainly evolved a lot. When we started offering Stockal as a platform to Indian investors, our expectations were that people will do the very basic stuff. They will want to park their money, invest in FANG, invest in Tesla, invest in Microsoft, things that they understood and commonly liked. And that would be it. And people won't trade very frequently and stuff like that. And people would certainly not participate in, meme stocks and stuff like that. We had absolutely no expectation. Also, given the fact that the regulatory environment is such that RBI rules, the central bank rules in India, do not allow you to speculate on any foreign assets. So which means you can't do any derivatives, you can't do a margin account even. So we felt people will do only the basic things. But continuously, we've observed that people have participated in global trends a lot more than we thought they would. I think around February, March of 2020, Tesla was very volatile, and Tesla trades were just through the roof in those times. Then oil fell around April, and energy stocks were impacted. So we could see that people's trades in energy stocks were going up. Later in the year, EV and alternative energy as a theme picked up, and not just Tesla. There was another company called NIO. There is NIO NIO in China, right? The trades in NIO. I mean, I honestly discovered NIO because of the people trading on Stockal at that time. This was around September, October timeframe, and it stayed on. I mean, people still trade in NIO a lot. It's a volatile stock. And then GameStop happened. GameStop happened, then AMC happened, and AMC is still continuing. I mean, even as recently as a couple of days back, when it was up almost 3,000%. Right? So we did not expect people to have the knowledge and the agility to invest in some of these trending stocks. Oh, I missed out Pfizer and Moderna when their approvals came and the vaccines were first launched. So we did not expect a lot of this when we started off. The second thing we didn't expect was the sort of the breadth of securities in which people have invested. So on Stockal, more than 2,800 securities have been traded so far. And our expectation when we started off was that people will do maybe 100, maybe 500 securities. Beyond that, you don't even know the Indian markets. How much would you know the US markets? That was the mindset initially. But pleasantly surprised to see that people have traded in nearly 3,000 securities so far. And then there are so many securities that people ask us about, which we don't have on the platform for various reasons. Sometimes they're very low liquidity, very low market caps. They could be manipulated and stuff like that. So people ask, but we don't have. Those numbers are also not small. I mean, meaningful numbers. So people's
one crazy company which Sitashwa missed out is like Coinbase. And when they went IPO, the kind of incoming requests which we got, for the IPO of Coinbase was like hit the roof, right? So like Sitashwa was saying, we are discovering newer companies through the people who are trading on the platform. So always, from an Indian investor mentality, they always look for, the little bit of alpha which they can make, and a quick buck which they can make, wherever see an opportunity to a large extent. So yeah, from that perspective, it's been pretty interesting. The same thing, when the IPOs came in, the IPO season came in with the Airbnb and Snowflakes and all these guys, right? So we saw like crazy demand as well. So the people are waking up to the fact that global investing is still a reality, right? It's not something which they can't act with.
Yeah. We see similar things also at our end. I mean, our focus is more on ETFs than on single stocks, but we have also seen similar behavior in the past from our Indian investor base. So one question I had for Ashish is, however, that what do you think, like besides the equity part, what other avenues do Indian investors have to invest overseas?
Well, I think the investor base is now quite woken up, and after COVID, what they've realized is that there is money to be made in these IPOs. There is money to be made in other products, be it the stocks which they go and find out. People go to a lot of pain to find out which is the next electric vehicle company. When Tesla was going crazy, there was a stock Nikola that started to go crazy. Completely unknown stock, but just because it had the first name of the scientist, right, Nikola Tesla, and kind of all kind of stories. The guys didn't even have a truck, I think, but they were like the electric truck company. So a lot of those things happen, and then a lot of pre-IPO investments then gather interest. So, for example, since you mentioned about Coinbase, so recently we did some placement of Kraken, which is like a Coinbase competitor, but it's much before IPO. Similarly, we did something for Klarna, Udemy, and so on. So what is happening is that people are going a lot into these pre-IPO stocks, and that's where a lot of interest is coming, and a lot of savvy clients are coming into it. And the ticket sizes are not very small. I mean, it's not retail sizes because these are meant typically for accredited investors. But that's something that is gathering a lot of interest, which is happening. along with it, the access that you get into funds or private equity and into a couple of other baskets that people look for. I think that segment is growing quite exponentially.
Understood. Okay. One question I had for Vinay, because I also saw on your platform that you have, to some extent, managed portfolios as well, and you're giving investors access to the single stocks. What do you see as a relation between investors preferring prepackaged products versus picking the stocks that they want to invest in?
No, absolutely, right. So, sometime back, Sudash was mentioning about the overall investor behavior, right? So when we started, people just wanted to get a small slice of FANG stocks to a large extent. But then, then the investor base kind of split into two different categories to a large extent. One, from a more passive standpoint, they wanted to have, they wanted an advisory to help them create their overall portfolio, and then the other end, who would like to aim, the game stocks of the world, right? So that they or
I think we are losing his network.
Yeah.
Now he's back. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I don't know where
we lost you for the
most something GameStop, then we lost you.
Okay. Okay. So what do I need to do? Start from the start? You'll edit it later.
Yeah.
Okay. So where are we getting at? They're like they buy.
No, I think we're losing.
Oh, no, you're breaking up again.
Yeah. So I think we are losing Vinay again.
Hello.
I don't know, Sitash, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, I can answer. So, Thomas, would you like to repeat what you were asking?
Yeah, sure. So, Siddharth, I saw on your webpage you also offer managed or a mix of products and basket of products for clients that are thematic investments, and then of course the single investments. So what do you see in terms of client preferences? Are your clients more looking for something that is managed, or have you seen that your clients are more self-sufficient and more determined and pick and choose and trade by themselves without your input?
Sure. And I think both kinds of clients exist today. When we started off, we started with a product which was single stocks and ETFs. But then over a period of time, people started asking us for advice. People started saying that, look, beyond a point, I don't know what to invest in. I've done my Amazon, I've done my FANG, or I've done my Tesla, and a few more that I understand. But beyond that, I would like to have advice. Now, the thing with the characteristics of our audience on Stockal is such that we don't have HNI clients that many. Our audience is largely mass affluent retail investors. The average ticket size is around $10,000, sometimes less. And no advice is available if you're not investing, a few $100,000 for the most part. And I know Kristal also solves for it beautifully for slightly lower ticket sizes, but for sub $10,000, $500 clients, $1,000 clients, advice cannot be made available humanly. So we figured that if we productize, research and advice to a certain extent, create portfolios or have experts create some portfolios and bring it to the Stockal platform for us to curate, then investors would find it useful to invest in some of these, set pre-configured portfolios, which we call stacks on the Stockal platform. And that audience, which was therefore looking for a product like that, started using this a lot more. In the last, I think we've been fully live with stacks for about 5 months or so. And in the last 3 months, we've started gaining very good traction on that. And as you know, our model is also a little bit B2B2C. We work with a lot of local brokers, wealth managers, and fintech platforms. So more and more of our distribution partners are now taking stacks onto the Stockal platforms that they are using for their customers. So as that adoption increases on the partner side, the customer adoption or the investor adoption will increase further. But I would characterize Stockal audiences, distinctly into these two categories. One is which does its own research, likes to trade, has a fairly broad sense of broad coverage of the market. And then there's the other audience which wants to park and stay put and buy and hold for long periods of time, does not want to spend too much time or effort, and does not perhaps have the energy to do a lot of research by themselves. They like to go for advice. They like to go for portfolios, therefore.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. One question for you, Ashish. How do you see fintech players like Stockal and Kristal? How can we embed ourselves better into the ecosystem to capture this growing market and this mega trend? I mean, we've been talking with the same growth that Sitashwa and Vinay have been describing. We have had that in Kristal as well. We see this massive growth in terms of Indian investors looking for overseas opportunities, also on Kristal's side. So what are your views on that? How can we embed ourselves and grow more here?
I think that's thanks for that. So what's happening is that the investors in India now are clearly looking at global investments, and it's across a large spectrum of assets. And what's happening is that like Stockal is solving for let's say the median account size is let's say below 10K, and if you look at Kristal, our average account size is probably more towards the 50,000-100,000. So there is a complete synergy that I saw when I spoke to Sitash early this year, that we got to do something together, because there is a way where we can literally go and solve all the problems of what a client may have, be it on just an access or a curated access or advisory or even handheld advisory and portfolio management. So I think the beauty is that what we are also realizing is that every client has multiple facets of what they want. So a client who is using a brokerage solution also wants advisory at maybe for a smaller part of their portfolio or larger, depending on the client, and vice versa. And that is where I think that we saw a synergistic partnership here. And I truly believe that fintechs are here to solve certain problems. And what we are against is some of the traditional platforms who are not very agile, who are not able to solve the problems. And it's all about expanding the pie in such a way that there is more efficiency, more access, and more power delivered in the hands of the customer. And that's where we saw, and when we got together and brainstormed, what's the best way to go, in a partnership together. And that's where we said that, okay, we should go and participate in Stockal's funding round, as well as have a partnership where we should be able to solve any institutional client's problem, because we are both kind of having a B2B2C model, whether they want a brokerage kind of a solution or a curated access or an advisory, or a much more active management, which we do with some of our hedge funds that we all manage. So I think that it's a very synergistic fit that we found, which I think is a big win-win, for both of us. I mean, for Kristal and Stockal, as well as for, I think, all the other market participants, our clients and their end clients. But I'd love to hear Sitashwa or Vinay's views also on the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Very complimentary. This is something that initially, again, one of the things that we were perhaps not very aware of, as we observed each other from a distance, Kristal and Stockal, we felt there are more similarities than there are complementarities, honestly speaking. And of course, we knew you were doing well, and we knew of your fundraise. We knew some of the people, etc., along the way as well. I think we were introduced for the first time maybe a couple of years back, if I remember correctly. So, and we've stayed in touch over a period. I think from a if we look at the market overall, the market is made up of all kinds of investors' requirements. In the end, there are the slightly higher net worth and the ultra high net worth investors as well. Then there are the retail investors, and of course the even smaller retail investors, so on and so forth. When it comes to investing, it has to be very democratic. At the end of the day, everybody needs and wants. If they understand that they should invest in the stock markets, then investing internationally is just natural second behavior, as long as one solves for the logistics of doing it and keeps the costs in control. And if we are able to do that together, then I think a holistic platform or a holistic solution will contain elements of Kristal and elements of Stockal, because investor needs are there for both kinds of platforms. Very active investor needs are there, are sort of out there for both kinds of platforms. And we cater to the smaller ticket size, mass affluent retail, and lower than that over a period of time, kind of audience. Kristal caters to a slightly higher net worth investor base. And I think together, when you put these solutions together, then naturally, I don't think anything is left out after that. I think the only thing perhaps left out is the high frequency trader or the prop trader market, which I believe is, from an India perspective, at least regulatorily also, it is not straightforward for individuals especially. So we've kind of, at least we cover pretty much the whole product ecosystem that's possible now.
Yeah, you stole a little bit of the thunder here, Ashish, because I wanted to leave that to the end to talk about or make the big announcement. So Stockal and Kristal have recently signed a partnership agreement, correct? In the terminology, given the similarities, given the synergies that we have. And I think I'm really very excited about that, because I see it also from the same perspective, that there's a huge potential to harvest on some of these synergies. But one question I had for you, Siddhartha, as well. So you just recently completed a fundraise round, and Kristal and Kristal clients through our offering have participated in that as well. Now, recently we have heard about difficulties in the private equity and startup market in India. That's last year has been a little bit slow in terms of fundraising, etc. Do you want to share any insights from your recent fundraise? Was it difficult for you to do that and to get it done?
Sure. I think first of all, we were very fortunate to be in a space which was not negatively impacted by COVID. Just by a stroke of luck, I could have started something else. Me and Vinay could have met and started a totally different business, perhaps the madcaps that we could be. But we are in a space which has grown. I think from a fundraise perspective, what at least my personal opinion is, what I've observed is that momentum has become even more important in this time frame for businesses, more than survival. From a fundraise investor's perspective, if there is a business which has higher momentum, then the probability of getting funded is higher these days. More than fundamentals, more than pretty much anything else at this point in time. And for us, it was honestly building up to this phase where fundraising became slightly easier over time, because momentum was there in the market, and unit economics was good. As a concept, investing internationally has been catching on for a while. I think another 1 year or so, it should become more mainstream, more normal for people to invest internationally. We were able to take advantage of some of these early trends, and when we were raising funds. And closing a fundraise is never a straightforward process. Ashish has much more experience in this than we have. Crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's still takes a little bit more time than an entrepreneur would want to spend on it. But I wouldn't say it was terribly difficult, given the momentum that we had. And after the first check came, it became slightly easier incrementally. Having one term sheet and adding on top of it has always been easier for businesses as well. So we were again, that happened in a nice way for us as well. When Aurora Ventures invested, it sort of triggered more investors to then look at Stockal in a different light, I would say. And we were also much clearer of our goals and what we wanted to do with the money, and how we wanted to take the platform forward, what we wanted to invest the funds in, and stuff like that. I think over a period of time, as you answer more questions, you get a lot of clarity for yourself as well. I mean, answer questions of investors. That also played a role. And it has been sort of a rolling round, I would say. It's not like one solid closure and then not raising for a while. I imagine that's the journey of many startups these days as well. So on a rolling basis, we have been able to raise funds along the way. After Aroa, Kidinza happened, and as Kidinza was happening, our conversation with Ashish and team matured in that sense. And I think the nice thing about Kristal plus Stockal is the synergistic, the synergistic opportunity from a business perspective. Participating on the cap table is certainly a welcome outcome among other things, and it aligns our goals for the long term as well. I think that's really the case here. When you are sort of helping each other grow in some sense, then if you're able to participate in that growth, that's what associates and friends end up doing. So I think that's how I look at it. Very happy and welcome to have Kristal on board like this with us for the next, well, as long as we're out there. Let's see.
Till your IPO.
Till the IPO, yeah.
and ours. Yeah.
And yours, yes.
If you're going to tell our clients to use Stockal for, let's say, the accounts at, let's say, 10,000 odd, then we should be also owning Stockal, right? Why should you, use Apple phone and not buy the Apple stock? Similarly, how can you use Stockal and not buy a Stockal stock? That's what we told our clients, and they bought it, right?
I like that logic.
All right, great. Unfortunately, we lost Vineet due to connectivity issues. But Ashish, do you have any concluding words on whether it's global investing, whether it's fundraising or partnerships? Anything you would like to add?
No, I think there's only one thing I'd say, that this whole global investing market, not only from India, from other countries, is going to be a very booming space, because what's happening is that the post-COVID world is actually shrunk a lot, where the amount of time people spend on internet or online investing or anything online has just shot through the roof, and it's a behavioral change. And in that sense, the borders have shrunk. For traveling, the borders have become a lot more harsh. But actually, for investments, the borders have really shrunk, and people are now looking to get access to investments across borders, across continents, and across asset classes. And which is why, having a business model where you have like Kristal for global or Stockal for global, and that kind of a platform coming together is very, very powerful for any kind of investor base that we have. So hoping that this partnership goes on for long and adds value to both the companies for having exponential growth.
Fantastic. Yeah. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
World has somehow, it's become more difficult to move around in this world, but at the same time, we have all come a little bit closer.
Absolutely.
True. Well said.
All right. On that happy note, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. It was really a pleasure moderating this session. It was very interesting to hear part of your journey, part of the recent developments and your outlook. So thanks very much for your precious time. And I wish you all the best. Stay safe, and looking forward to talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. Thanks, Satash. Thanks, Alice. Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.